Hello and good afternoon. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, joining you from the Breaking News Show and eTurbo News here from rainy Honolulu, Hawaii. With me is Dr. Peter Talo. As always, most of the time at least, he's joining us from College Station, Texas. Peter, here in Hawaii, it's kind of a stormy day. A few thunderstorms are on the horizon. And as you know, yesterday we had a terrible incident on an Hawaiian Airlines flight from Phoenix to Honolulu, where 36 people got injured because they didn't wear seatbelts in the approach session, and some of them were injured quite seriously and unconscious because of turbulences. So how's the weather in College Station?
Well, we are equaling Hawaii. It around 6 o'clock this morning, it started to thunder, and it's been raining ever since, and it's cold and rainy today. So the first day of Hanukkah has started off with a cold, rainy day in Texas, but tomorrow it'll be nicer. So, but right now I think we're sharing the weather with Hawaii for the first time. You have terrible weather and we have terrible weather, so we're sharing together. But I think, the point that you made about the turbulence, this is a real issue in aviation because people sometimes object to the fact that the airlines tell them they have to wear a seatbelt. And this was a perfect example of when the airlines say, even when you're seated, you need to wear a seatbelt. It's not that they're saying it to make themselves feel good. It's a necessary. And of course, the one time that you do worry about it is people do have to get up to go to the bathroom, and is taking a risk. And the other thing is when they bring the cart around. I was on a plane once from Sao Paulo, Brazil to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and they were bringing the cart down the aisle. When Zappa, we hit turbulence and everything started flying around the cart. And people were seated, but they got injured because of bottles flying through the air.
Yeah, and that is something what we don't really expect, because usually plane trips are quite smooth, but there's always also the possibility of clear or air turbulences. And we have this a lot also over the Pacific here, when on flights to the US mainland and Hawaii, where you really think it's beautiful weather, blue sky, and all of a sudden you get into really bad turbulences because of they call it clear air. Not even pilots are able to detect them. So yeah. It is definitely something we should always keep in mind. Just keep your seatbelt fastened when you're seated. That's what people always say. Otherwise, you might get hurt, and that's what happened yesterday. 36 people got hurt. 11 are in serious condition in a hospital after a flight caught turbulences 30 minutes before touching down.
This, by the way, happens in many places in the world. It's something, I think we become lackadaisical when it comes to wearing seatbelts. We just kind of got used to it, and people don't take it very seriously, and they should.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, well, we're getting into Christmas and Hanukkah season. Everyone is ready for the holidays. So tell me, you're Jewish, and I know you have a different set of holidays than the Christians. And there's a lot going on in your world, you told me, in Texas.
There is. There's a lot going on both in the Christian world and in the Jewish world. This year, they come very close together. Hanukkah lasts for 8 days. It started last night, so it will go through Christmas. And so the holidays are coming together. They celebrate different things. Of course, for Christians, if you're a religious Christian, Christmas is the second holiest day of the Christian year, the first being Easter. But in the Jewish world, Hanukkah is really sort of a minor holiday, but the American banks turned it into a big holiday, because we used to not give a lot of presents, but now, under the brilliance of capitalism, they've convinced everyone that a child's supposed to get a present every night for 8 nights. So my kids actually came up with the idea of the first night 1 gift, the second night 2 gifts, the third night 3 gifts. I pointed out there would be 56 gifts. They thought they were pretty smart. I turned it down. But Hanukkah represents the idea of the few against the many. and of the idea that it was the first battle in the history of the world for religious freedom. And it's from those battles that the idea that we don't all have to be the same to respect each other in the same way. And I thought that it was really interesting. The largest menorah, Hanukkah, or largest candelabra in Europe was lit in Ukraine by President Zelensky, and who gave a very nice speech, both in Ukrainian and some Hebrew, but where he talked about the idea that, and of course, how the light of Hanukkah in the darkness of war shines through, and that you have a sense of peace and a sense of people having respect for each human being, even though we're each unique and we're each different. So Hanukkah has started out as a minor holiday, but becoming a major holiday. Of course, the Christmas season is one which is very important to people in the commercial world because a lot of stuff is sold. It's I'm not sure in the United States people want a white Christmas or a green Christmas, meaning dollar bills, but it's certainly a time when stores make a lot of money and commerce is dependent on it to a great extent. So there is that. What are you doing for Christmas?
Well, I mean, really, well, I'm going to be home this year, so I've done enough travel, pretty much almost on and off nonstop since August. So I'm looking forward to a Hawaiian Christmas, what is quite magical because we celebrate Christmas in the sun. So I do have a Christmas tree, and it shows it looks like it has snow on it, but of course it's not real snow. So I have
Is it a real tree or is it a make-believe tree?
No, it's not a real tree. I guess the times where you have real trees and candles, I remember from my childhood when I lived in Germany, they really have been special. And yes, you're right. Christmas is becoming very much commercialized, and everyone is celebrating Christmas. You don't really have to be a Christian to celebrate Christmas. It's I know in cities like Jakarta, what is dominantly Muslim, Christmas is celebrated. I just came back from Saudi Arabia and I see Christmas decoration in the country, what is almost 100% Muslim. So Christmas, yes, is becoming a commercial holiday as much as a religious holiday.
Yeah.
And everywhere in the world.
And I know that bothers a lot of my
religious because it's always combined in a way.
Yeah, and that bothers a lot of my religious Christian friends who point out that it's a religious holiday that's been overtaken by commercialization.
But well, you're absolutely right, and of course it's up to everyone individually to decide how and if they want to celebrate Christmas or any holiday, as to speak. I mean, they're bank holidays and they're what we call real holidays in the United States. So sometimes we say holidays in this country, they're only for the bankers and for the people working for the government.
And the post office.
Yeah, in the post office. But Christmas is special because it's based on a tradition, same as Hanukkah, and many other religious holidays. So it's on a different category, but it's misused, in my opinion, that people feel the need to spend money and give sometimes gifts you don't really use
or can afford.
Can't afford, but it's also good for the economy. So I guess has its good and its bad parts.
So how do you think this holiday season is going to impact travel? In the United States, we're expecting some really rough weather on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and those are big travel days. Much of they're expecting major snowstorms going across the northern part of the United States and toward New England. So I know that's gonna, and when the United States coughs, often the whole world gets pneumonia. So I wonder how this is going to impact travel.
Well, it depends. Of course, it's probably going to mean more chaos at airports, waiting times. We always have this in the winter. That becomes kind of even during COVID, when there was little travel, we had delays and we had flight cancellations. So probably expect more than this. But other than that, travel is coming back quite strong. We've seen our long summer season this year where really it almost went into November.
Yes.
So it's time for a little bit of a winter season now, but when it's winter here, it's summer in South America or in Australia. I know my nephew went to Melbourne and they're on the beaches like people are here in Hawaii. So it depends really where you travel, I guess.
Well, of course, but the other part of it is it does change hotel occupancy. Now that's going to be a big problem in places where there's homeless problems. You might know that in Los Angeles, just before the Christmas season, they're talking about putting thousands of homeless people into hotels. And you don't know now, do you really want to go to a 5-star hotel and have somebody who's been put down the hall who may have some psychological issues, or maybe it's not being
But
cared.
Peter, I think that's kind of unrealistic. They're not going to put homeless people in 5-star hotels. There are 1-star hotels.
New York
and
is.
1-star hotels.
New York is.
And in an emergency, I saw something my sister
But
sent.
no, it's not an emergency. In New York is putting people permanently into major hotels.
Well, I have not heard they're putting people in 5-star hotels, but that
Yes.
would be nice. I guess that's a nice treat. I mean, everyone should.
You have the same problem in San Francisco.
Yeah, I have hopefully they upgrade some people to a nice suite, and that's a nice holiday gift, I guess.
Yeah, well, no, but it's not. But it's right now. It's permanent, and it's a real issue for the hotel industry because some people are saying they don't want to pay the amount of money.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, I honestly, it's new to me.
Yes,
I
well,
haven't heard this. I know
well,
everyone. I think in our country, our government is failing many times to take care of mental illness and of
yeah,
youth issues.
absolutely.
And there shouldn't be hotels for this. There should be shelters for this. But if there isn't, I mean, everyone, including the homeless people, have a right to live. And yeah, well, if that's what it is, it's going to
Yeah,
destroy one thing, but it's going to help a few people to get a warm roof over their head. So I cannot really say it's wrong, but it's wrong that we're not really looking to solve the problem. We're looking to shift the problem to another industry that is not prepared to deal with this.
Right, and the real issue is not the homeless is a whole issue in and of itself, and that means lots of other issues have to be looked at. The issue of fatherlessness, the fact that families are collapsing, there are many issues that have to be looked at. I'm just looking from the narrow perspective of the tourism industry, where hotels, which are not cheap today, I mean, hotels are very expensive, especially if you're on a family vacation. If you're a single person, it's not quite so bad. But if families travel is becoming very expensive, inflation is hitting hard, and around the world, and in Europe, and even in Latin America or in Africa, inflation has become has impacted people, and it's expensive. And then, if you're paying that much money, and they have no other place to put people, and I'm not saying they should be put on the street, but I'm saying that becomes now a challenge for the hotel industry, and that is something that has to be thought through. Because going to spend $300 to $700 a night for a hotel room is not cheap for most people.
No, absolutely not. And these are definitely not the hotels you find homeless people in. That is reserved, of course, for the lower end hotels that probably would not attract.
No, unfortunately, I wish you were
Sure.
right. But if you look at what's going on in some of the hotels in San Francisco and in New York City, the mayor of Los Angeles today spoke about it. Unfortunately, you're wrong. And it's a real challenge for the hotel industry, because how do you mix these two groups of people and still maintain a functioning business? And that's something that has to be thought through. Now, I agree with you. We do need to come up with a better system, and we need to come up with a system where people are not on the street. And also, just putting somebody into a room, if you don't give them the medical help they need, it's just transferring the problem, but you're not solving the problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an issue we should maybe look at other countries like in Europe to learn from, because unfortunately, yeah, we're not a welfare state, and that could be, and it's rough for people, especially if you cannot help yourself because of mental issues, because of the drug addiction, or whatever it is. The society unfortunately has a responsibility to people, and we're kind of failing here. And well, but I guess that's not a problem. We can resolve, but it's something the tourism industry should be.
It has to be,
Yep.
the tourism industry needs to be part of the solution. I'm not saying, because unfortunately, if we like it or not, it does impact tourism. And mass waves of immigration impact tourism. So these are all things that, if like it or not, we have to look at. We cannot just put our head in the sand and say it'll go away. But we have to not just look at bandages. We have to look at some of the real problems and how they can be solved on deeper issues. And that doesn't mean just throwing money at a problem. It means taking the time to work. I mean, one of the things that certainly over this holiday season you see in the Jewish community is that lots of Jewish people, we have a program we call Give a Christian the Day Off. And we work in hospitals and in other places so the Christians can celebrate their holiday. And that's when you're becoming part of the solution rather than the problem.
Yeah, and that's of course counts for anything in the world, and
Yes.
tourism has a responsibility and is showing responsibility. There are many wonderful initiatives by the travel and tourism industry in the world. I'm just thinking about the Just a Drop initiative in the UK, where clean drinking water is supplied to the poorest of the poorest in Africa. That's all funded by the travel and tourism industry. So the industry is trying to be responsible in a lot of ways, and we should encourage this, of course.
Absolutely. And this is a time, if we're talking about this being a season of giving, then maybe one of the important things in the tourism industry, you should be thinking, how does it get, but how does it give back?
Yeah, and Peter, we talked just about the situation in Peru. And Peru has been a major tourism destination in South America for many years. You look at the Andes, you look at Machu Picchu, you look at Lima, what was, especially with Miraflores and everything, a very vibrant city. And it looks like this is all coming to a halt now. What's going on in Peru?
Yeah, so Peru is really having a very difficult time. They've had, in the last 6 years, 5 presidents. Some only last for a few weeks. And I kid that if you want to have a good business, open up a special jail for presidents of Peru, because they seem to keep going to jail. But the last president was a leftist who kind of didn't want to go work through Congress, so Congress impeached him in Peru, and that started a major problem. There's been a lot of fighting. The whole tourism industry has come to a complete halt. People are having to be evacuated from Machu Picchu. Israel yesterday completed a successful evacuation of all Israeli citizens from the Machu Picchu area, which might be considered Peru's #1 tourism attraction, Cusco and Machu Picchu. And this is a real issue because I think we're seeing instability going across Latin America. Latin America is facing 3 major issues. 1, political instability. 2, very high inflation. I'm talking, the United States, we complain about 8 or 9%. We're talking 80%, 90%, where by the time you get paid, your money is worth, it's almost like the Weimar Republic. In other words, you can't spend your money fast enough because it's worthless by the time you get to the store. So you're having this tremendous amount of inflation. And then to add to it, you have the problem of political instability, and you have the problem of social instability, and you're having riots on the streets, etc., and high crime and terrorism. Well, no terrorism, but really crime. So Latin America has some of the great tourism attractions of the world, but if it can't get its act together, it's going to really lose that whole industry. And Peru right now no one is going to Peru. The industry has basically come to a halt. It's not in Lima itself, but in other places. People are having problems getting food or transportation. Electricity is going out. And so it's not like Ukraine where you have a foreign invader. In this case, it's an internal problem, but the results are the same. Nobody wants to go and spend $400 a night in a hotel without electricity and without running water. So these are going to be big problems. Peru has got to get its political act together. On top of that, you have other problems on the horizon in Brazil. You may have problems coming up in Argentina. You may have problems coming up in Colombia. You may have problems coming up in Chile. So these are all very strong countries when it comes to tourism. And it's summer. It's a high season. So we really, couldn't be coming at a worse time. And let's see where it goes. But it's Peru. It's either going to be part of the solution, or it's going to be a symbol of worse problems yet to come.
Yeah, but now Argentina is definitely celebrating, I heard, because they won the World Cup.
Yes, congratulations to everyone in Argentina. Felicidades, Argentina, and especially to Messi, who scored just a brilliant goal. And of course, Messi was probably the national hero of Argentina right now as the great football player. Argentina really needed this win because they're having so many economic problems, so many political problems. The country needed something. So I'm really glad Argentina won. Sorry to my friends in France, but I'm really proud for my Argentinian friends. And this is like a big lift for them. Especially, they started off very poorly. If you remember, in the first game, they lost to Saudi Arabia. But so this was the World Cup of all World Cups, because it was down to it was a penalty goal that Argentina won on. So it was really a big deal. And from a tourism perspective, I think this is going to help. Argentina could not have bought enough positive publicity. They wouldn't have enough money to buy the amount of publicity they got from the World Cup. So if they can channel this will be really good for Argentina.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know how Argentina is definitely always been, I wouldn't be close to being fanatic when it comes to football. It's borders have been closed. I remember when I was in Brazil and I was going over at Iguazu Falls to Argentina, they closed the border for Brazilians because of a football game.
Yes.
Foreigners like me were allowed to pass, but Brazilians, no way. You know, they really take football serious. But
they do. It's a religion. But I will say that Argentina played it very well. They did not say they were representing Argentina. They said they were representing all the American countries. And so it was America against Europe. And I don't know if the French said the same thing, but when the Argentinians won, they said this was a win for every country in the Americas, both North and South America. And that kind of made them love it. The people in Brazil were all rooting for Argentina, which is very rare because there's a big rivalry between Argentina and Brazil. I remember in the World Cup that took place in Rio in 2014, the Brazilians were rooting for the Germans because they disliked the Argentinians so much. But this time that switched, and this time the Brazilians were rooting for the Argentinians against the French.
Football and also cricket, if you look at sports, how it can bring people together and also divide people depending where it goes.
Yes.
And cricket has always been, it's probably one of the biggest peacemakers at times in the Commonwealth world, you know, so and through history. So sports has a major influence in travel and tourism. And so does dancing and music, you know.
Yeah.
And so if you look at Jamaica, for example, what's reggae music doing? You know, it's something everyone you hear reggae music, you think about Jamaica.
Yes, but when you think about Jamaica, unfortunately, I don't know if you saw the headlines today that Jamaica's put in a state of emergency because of crime. And so this is a real issue for Jamaica. I wrote to the Jamaican Minister of Tourism because Jamaica has so much to offer. It's such a wonderful country. And now that they have a state of emergency, and I sent you a copy of that this morning at 6 a.m. Texas time, because of problems due to crime, this is not good for their tourism industry. And so hopefully Jamaica is going to get beyond that.
Yeah, and of course, Jamaica is not the only country where you have issues of crime. Jamaica is, I think, one of the few countries, and you know this best, that actually had addressed this issue aggressively. So hopefully they're going to do it again, and to become a better place. I mean, what speaks for Jamaica is that most of the tourism is really in all-inclusive resorts, like in Sandals Resort, for example. And you know very well, security and safety is, I mean, there's probably no other hotel chain I know in the world that has such a secure and safe place to be, where you can enjoy a holiday. But you always have to have common sense when you go outside.
Yeah, yeah.
The
The
street.
problem is, as you know, when you see a headline like some of the headlines that were around the world today, that Jamaica had to impose a state of emergency due to violence and crime against tourists, even though if you're in an all-inclusive place, you're really safe, the perception becomes one that's very terrible. And that becomes a real challenge. You are right. We were really working hard, and then because of COVID, everything kind of stopped. And I'm hoping that Jamaica will work again to really bring themselves up to where we were in around 2019. So we made major progress in Jamaica, but like in all forms of tourism security, if you don't keep at it, you lose it.
Yeah, no, and of course, crime, not only in Jamaica, in our own country, is a serious threat to the industry anywhere and everywhere. And we need to, and crimes are involved with drugs, with easy
Yes.
getting
And as you
guns
know,
easy, you know, and these are all things. If you look at Mexico, drug lords, and so there's so many issues that are involving around crime, and there may be a state of emergency in Jamaica. But if you compare it to other regions where there is not a state of emergency, at least they address it. It might be 100 times worse, but it's something especially the travel and tourism industry, has to be aware of and is aware of, and needs to work with the local political world to make this better, I guess.
yeah. Well, as you know, and I sent you a copy of my letter to Minister Bartlett today, talking about the need for Jamaica to reinforce its efforts, because the Caribbean as a whole has had some real issues of crime, and you know, the facts are less important than the perceptions. So if people in a place like Jamaica believe that it's dangerous, even if it's not, the perceptions are such that it will destroy the industry. And crime is kind of like a cancer. It gnaws away slowly but surely. So in every part of the world, this can be a real issue, but we do have to look at it very carefully.
Yeah. Well, Peter, I know you're off to.
Yes, I have a reception in
Hanukkah
Tuesday
this
because
afternoon.
I have to go get dressed and I have a reception. So I want to wish you and to everybody both a Chag Sameach, a happy Hanukkah, and a Merry Christmas. I hope that everyone's holidays are wonderful, filled with light and happiness and peace.
Well, I wish you the same, Peter, and Merry Christmas. And I guess I'm going to talk to you before the New Year, so we can.
Oh yeah, you'll speak to me.
And everyone who wants to actually be part of our New Year's discussion on the 28th of December, what will take place at 1 p.m. Eastern time, or what would make it 6 p.m. London time, 7 p.m. in Europe, please be, because you can join us on Zoom. You can be part of our holiday and New Year's discussion. It's going to be very interesting. We already have a lot of people that registered, and we work together with the World Tourism Network on this. Simply, what you do is you go to WTN.travel, what is the World Tourism Network, and on top you see a link to new events. Just click on new events and you will see the event Goodbye 2022. Now, if you want to do it easier, you can also go to WTN.travel/end 2022, NEND 2022. It gets you to the sign up page directly. There's no fee, no charge, it's free. And we just love for you to be part of it. So it's Wednesday, December 28th, 8 a.m. Hawaii time. what would make it 1 p.m. on the East Coast, at 6 p.m. in New York, it's 7 p.m. I guess in Central Europe, 8 p.m. in Kenya and Saudi Arabia, 9 p.m. in Dubai. So, but you see all the times on there, so you can look for your own time slot. But join us; it's going to be fun. Well, Peter, I wish you
All right. Well, again, happy holidays.
the same to you, and you enjoy your afternoon. Drive
Thank
careful.
you.
I
Bye-bye.
hopefully your roads are not are clear. There's no snow, is there?
Yeah, me too. This is, I'm hoping the rain's gonna go away a little bit.
All
I'm gonna
right.
send it back to Hawaii. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye bye.